Hey guys. This is What If Gohan Was a Reincarnation Isekai. It's important to note that I am not the author of this story, nor do I own any media. My personal stories have been ruthlessly attacked by YouTube due to the extreme violation of their terms of service. So I will be releasing the best of fanfiction I come across alongside my more socially appropriate works. Enjoy! I Am Gohan by Lord Phoenix. Chapter 1, What? Sigh. Tristan Black sighed, rubbing his temples for the 20th time. He was stuck on an important project that would change his entire working life. He had been focused on this work for weeks, and just when he reached the climax, he got stuck. He had no options to continue this. He sighed again very resignedly, while his fingers went over the keyboard of the computer that was located right in front of his eyes. He was thinking of a solution, which was rather ironic. His whole life was trouble. His parents abandoned him, and he grew up in an orphanage until a kind woman took him in at the age of 9. She gave him everything he never had: a house, clothes, food, education, and most of all, love. Yes, they were the happiest 6 years of his life. Until one day she died. He came from school, and when he got home, he saw how a couple of men took her mother's body to the funeral home. She died of a heart attack. That day Tristan swore 2 things. The first is that he would never forget his mother, and the second is that he was going to do his best in his life. He wouldn't waste it. All to honor his mother. That led him to make an effort like never before in his studies, and it was all worth it. He was an outstanding student in high school and college. There Tristan graduated with a double degree in mechatronics, engineering, and computer science from the famous and illustrious MIT. Soon a multinational knocked on his door. Only 2 months had passed since he finished university, and an offer came. Life was finally smiling at him. Tristan started working in the programming section of that multinational that was dedicated to multiple technological sectors. He climbed the ladder over the months, and finally the managers offered him a promotion. They knew that the young man was capable of doing much more. They were going to offer him a position as the head of the programming area. And for this Tristan had to demonstrate his abilities in a test. On a company project. And that's what he was working on now. He had already been nearly 3 weeks and only had 1 more left to introduce him. But he had blocked right on the final stretch. That's how cool his luck was. No algorithm allows me to fix it. Maybe I should try another program, Tristan mumbled before letting out a loud cough. If he had taken longer than expected with this project, it was because of his chronic illness, which worsened during the last years of his career. And in recent weeks he has gotten worse. He was having trouble breathing, coughing more often, and headaches were constant, but he still had to turn in the project no matter what. Tristan wasn't going to give up that easily. But a break wouldn't be bad, Tristan uttered with a big smile, getting up from the desk. He had been sitting on it for 4 hours. Without making too much effort, he walked towards the kitchen. The last thing he wanted was to worsen the terrible condition of his already weakened body. Tristan took a pot of noodles and put the water on to heat. The bad thing about living alone for so many years is that he didn't know how to cook anything. He learned the basics, but that's it. I would have been too lazy to cook anyway, admitted the boy, pouring the noodles into a bowl and walked back to the living room, ready to eat. He turned on the TV, and it turned out that today they were showing one of his favorite series. Dragon Ball. Yes, it was the anime he had grown up with. So nostalgic. I keep up with the manga and everything, but nothing better than watching the old episodes, Tristan commented as he slurped the noodles. He totally immersed himself in the television and finished dinner without realizing it. But it was better for him. He needed to give himself a break. The project had him very stressed. The only thing that stopped his amusement was his usual loud coughing and the headaches that came and went. But he enjoyed himself. And in the end, he fell asleep on the sofa with a smile on his face, having relived the only happy memories of his childhood in the orphanage. What's up? Tristan spoke rather absorbedly. The only thing he noticed around him was darkness. He couldn't see anything and couldn't move either. Everything seemed to be frozen. As if he was in a limbo. A moment. Had he? Don't tell me I'm dead. He didn't see any other option, so he cried internally since he couldn't finish the project. He hadn't accomplished anything worth remembering. It was a resounding failure. He couldn't honor his mother. He couldn't do anything. Damn, is life that cruel? Tristan couldn't help but wonder that fate had treated him like a common animal. Or worse. He didn't have time to complain anymore. A light shone in front of him, and he was forced to close his eyes. This reminded him of a curious thing. This is typical of a web novel, he remembered with a faint smile the stories he used to read from time to time, and that was the last thing he did. Tristan disappeared from the place. The sun shone on a small house, located on a hill far away from many, but now it was home to a new family. This family was made up of a boy who loves fighting, Son Goku, and a woman who became his wife 10 months ago, Kai Kai. Kai Kai had her first child a few days ago, and right now they were debating what name they should give the newborn. "Dad, what name do you like?" Kai Kai asked her burly father, who was standing next to her in front of the baby's crib. He was the imposing Ox Satan. "Well, I thought of some names." The man took out a long roll, leaving her and Goku from her with a drop of sweat. Were so many names necessary? Look, he could be called Ox Satan, Ox Sataron, Ox Minosk. Kaichi's father began to quote, and the baby in his crib cried as he listened. That baby was none other than Tristan. "Wait, where am I?" Tristan inquired without seeing anything yet, but he heard several voices that were very, very familiar. "Dad, he doesn't seem to like your names." Kai Kai laughed nervously after hearing the baby cry. "I keep insisting on calling him Archimedes." That voice. It's Kai Kai. Don't tell me I've. Tristan tried to assimilate the situation from him. It was quite surreal to think about that option. He had reincarnated in Dragon Ball? It doesn't make any sense, but my body feels smaller and my ears don't deceive me. But it seems so unreal, Tristan thought resignedly. He didn't know what to do right now. He didn't really have much of a choice either. "What do you think, Goku?" Kai Kai spoke, looking at the boy, who was leaning on a chair listening to the conversation without participating. Goku blinked several times at his wife and then at Ox Satan. He looked at the baby in the cradle before processing a response. "Me. You." Kai Kai and her father spoke at the same time, anxiously awaiting what name the boy was going to suggest for the baby. I think we should eat something to think better," Goku replied, scratching the back of his neck, and they all fell on their backs. "Take it seriously, Goku," Kai Kai complained, looking at him with a frown, and Goku swallowed saliva, feeling a small chill. Kai Kai was terrifying. That was Goku's voice. "So I'm really into Dragon Ball." Tristan was thrilled to hear the voice of his childhood hero. Oh my god. He still couldn't believe it. As a fan of the franchise, he was very excited, but he had to think calmly about everything and not get carried away. "First I should know who I am in this world. If Goku and Kai Kai are here, maybe he is Gohan's brother," thought Tristan, weighing options. After Kaichi's reprimand, Goku decided to get serious, and looked attentively at the baby, thus earning the attention of his wife. "He will be called Son Gohan. As my grandpa," Goku finally declared, looking at the baby with a serious face, and then he turned to Kai Kai. "As the old master, he is a great name," Ox Satan spoke with a smile, since the baby would have the name of a great martial artist. "Good. Our son will be called Son Gohan," Kai Kai commented happily, looking at her son, who seemed very pleased by the name. "Yes. Now we can eat," Goku shouted, jumping for joy, and both his wife and Ox Satan released several laughs. Meanwhile, Tristan, now called Gohan, was puzzled by what was happening. His mind was still taking it in. "I'm Gohan. I'm the character with the most potential in the series," Gohan exclaimed in his mind, inquiring about the character. He was one of his favorites. And although he didn't manage to unleash his full potential, at least he fulfilled his goal and was happy. That was the most important thing. But now everything was different. He had started from scratch. History would be written by him. Every action, every step he took could change the events he knew about. "The advantage here is that I know the events of the manga. This time I will do things well. I will be the strongest," Gohan thought with a smile. Chapter 2, The New Son Gohan. Almost 4 weeks passed since Gohan's birth, and since then the Son family lived happily, but of course, too, there was some dissension, especially due to the fact that Goku was not used to living with his family like he did at the moment. He wasn't used to being a father either. It was all quite new to him. On more than one occasion, he got a good reprimand from Kai for ignoring what he said. "Where's Goku?" Like for example now. Kai asked in annoyance, seeing her husband nowhere. They agreed that Goku would take care of Gohan while she cooked. But it seemed that her husband had disappeared. With a resigned sigh, she stopped moving the pot and went to her room. That's very typical of Goku, although at the same time it's what I love about him, Kai thought with a smile that she widened at the sight of Gohan. Her son was lying in the crib with a peaceful expression on his features. Kai noticed that her baby hardly ever cried. And if he did, it was only when he needed to drink breast milk or when his diaper needed changing. Other than that, Gohan wasn't crying. "He's a very intelligent baby, it seems as if he's watching me," the woman reasoned, stroking her son's jet black hair. "I'm home now." Goku announced his arrival with a loud voice, and after a few seconds, he appeared in the room where his wife and his son were. "Can you tell where you've been, Goku?" Kai asked him with a streak of anger on her temple, and the boy took several steps back, sensing imminent danger. Even though he had faced beings that would make anyone back down, this woman truly terrified him. He didn't know why. "Well, you see, I went to look for firewood in the forest, and then I decided to catch a big fish to eat it," replied the young man with an innocent smile. Kai let out a weary sigh as she shook her head, and the raven boy scratched the back of his neck with a nervous smile. "You have no choice, Goku. Later I'll cook that fish." The woman rested her eyes on the figure of her baby. "He's pretty quiet, don't you think?" Feeling more relaxed by the fact that Kai hadn't been angry with him, Goku fixed his onyx eyes on the boy and nodded with a smile. "When he will be older, I'd like him to train with me." Goku spoke with a smile, and instantly his wife's brow furrowed. "That won't be necessary. With you it's more than enough to protect the Earth." Kai refuted and raised her index finger. "Gohan will be a very outstanding scientist or researcher. I wish that for him." "But Kai," Goku grumbled, since all of that sounded pretty boring to him. "I know. Why don't we let him decide for himself?" For Goku that would be for the best, and he personally hoped that Gohan would decide to train. Otherwise he couldn't force him to do it either. Kai looked at him sternly for a few moments, and seeing the accommodating face Goku was putting on, she ended giving up. "Okay, let Gohan pick it." Kai crossed her arms and closed her eyes. "Where's that big fish you brought in?" "Well, I left it out. I'm sure you'll make a delicious dish." Goku exclaimed with a smile and left the room happy. "A great banquet awaits me." Kai followed her husband with a smile, and they cleared the room. They ignored the fact that Gohan had heard the talk from him. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm going to train, yes to take advantage of this potential. Being a researcher is not my goal, although it doesn't sound bad," Gohan mused. He wouldn't stall his potential like the original Gohan. That was why his priority was not to study, but rather to become much stronger. But that didn't really matter to him right now. Ever since he was transmigrated, he had been busy thinking of other matters. During his first days, Gohan began to plan what would be the future, using his knowledge of manga and anime. "In about 4 years, Raditz will come to Earth. By then my power level will have to be at least 1,000 units," he inquired. His biggest concern was that, at least for now. Therefore he would look for ways to increase his power to be ready for the occasion. His latent power in the manga was 1,300 units. When he injured Raditz, he would try to reach that number by training. "I'll start training my ki from now on. When I'm older I'll ask Dad to train me and teach me combat techniques," Gohan thought. Since his father had been trained by the best martial artist in the world, he was quite excited about learning the turtle style. And above all, he would like to meet the rest of the characters in the series, such as Bulma, Master Roshi, Krillin, etc. But that would happen in a couple of years, as he remembered in the anime. And then he would have to be trained by Piccolo. That excited him too, but there was still plenty of time for it to happen. "Although I don't know if everything will go according to the manga, I'll try not to alter things too much," Gohan thought. He didn't want to cause a disaster. But he wasn't going to sit idly by as if he were just another spectator. No. Now this was his life. Gohan was determined to follow his own path. Now that he had this opportunity, he would become the strongest in the entire universe. Even above Dad. "I will make the most of my potential," he exclaimed excitedly. "But before I accomplish that, I should eat." He Since he still couldn't speak, he burst into tears, making the crying echo throughout the house. And in a matter of a few seconds, Kai came. She certainly was a caring mother. Little by little the years went by and Gohan's growth became noticeable to the Sun family. They were happy about it. With 7 months Gohan began to speak, leaving his mother speechless. Forgive the redundancy for such an incredible feat. After completing his first year of life, Gohan could already walk easily, and the following year, he learned to read. He was definitely a genius kid. So Kai started buying him some books. And today at the age of 3, he was able to read any text without difficulty, even difficult ones. Kai was very happy about that. Everything seemed to indicate that Gohan would decide to be an investigator in the future, and this made her quite excited. But what Kai didn't know is that Gohan had been training his ki since he was a month old. Yes, all his dedication was there. Gohan had been meditating to sense his own ki, his life energy. And after a tedious process, he was able to get it in his first year. Once he perceived his own ki, the next step was to concentrate that energy in the palms of his hands in order to materialize it. And it didn't take too long. In the manga Vidal was able to do it with relative ease, so in his case it shouldn't be less. It only took 2 months. Once he gained some mastery over his ki, Gohan kept practicing. He wanted to learn to fly, though first he had to increase his ki. He only did mind training, and thus his power level was still low. He couldn't fly or do anything else as he would be exhausted. Sigh. This is so boring, Gohan spoke as he read a book that Kai had bought for him. I learned all this when I was little. After all, in his past life he studied mechatronics and computing. All the books that Kai bought him were useless to study. And certainly that was an advantage. His mother wouldn't bother him with doing chores because he would only take a few seconds to complete them. If they were integral or derived it would be different. I'll see what Dad does. Gohan got up from his chair and left his room, going towards the living room. You could tell that he loved his family. His parents took care of him and gave him all their attention, 2 coasts that he never had in his past life. Except for his mother. Although Kai was his mother, and he really loved her as such, no one could replace the woman who provided a home. He swore never to forget her. What are you doing here, Gohan? I told you to go study. Kai spoke as he washed the dishes and Gohan snapped out of his thoughts. I'm done, Mom. It was all quite easy, answered the boy, scratching his neck, and he wasn't lying. All that was very simple for him. Kai blinked her eyes in disbelief, but Gohan had done such impressive things that she believed him, without a doubt. Okay, you can go play outside. Your father is in the lake. Kai smiled and leaned down to kiss his forehead, before going back to her chore. Gohan nodded with a smile and left the house, heading to the side. He tried to run, but his suit restricted a certain part of his movements. Not bad though. But I'd rather have Dad's Dogi or Piccolo's suit, Gohan thought as he felt the 4-star sphere above his head. When he saw that Dragon Ball he felt amazed. And to think that simple orbs could grant you any wish, it sounded tempting. But obviously he didn't have any wish to ask Shenron. It would be preferable to save the 7 spheres for when the time came. There is less than a year left for Raditz to arrive and I still haven't reached 1,000 units of power. I have to hurry up, he reasoned through gritted teeth. His mental training would not serve his purpose. He had to train hard and push his limits to become stronger. But of course, he needed the guidance of someone more experienced than him. He only had a year to train, and there was no time to waste. After a few minutes, he reached the lake, but he didn't see anyone. So assuming his father was submerged, he sat on the grass to meditate. I've never had the opportunity to meditate before, but doing it here, outdoors, is sensational, Gohan thought, feeling the fresh air on his face. It was very nice. His ki began to fluctuate, but it didn't go any further as the lake water fell on him when his father Goku decided to finally get out of the water. Gohan blinked a few times and a smile appeared on his face as he saw Goku, his father and the person he admired the most in the whole world. Goku imitated his son. He was surprised to see him here, since Kai told him when he left the house that Gohan was studying in his room. It's you, Gohan. I thought you were home, Goku stated with a smile as he carried a very large fish in his right hand. Yes, but it's been a while since I finished studying, replied the boy before looking at the animal. Whoa, that is a huge fish, Dad. He was stunned by the size of the fish. It was one thing to see it on TV and quite another to have it 1 meter away. His father was phenomenal at fishing. Isn't it? Now we have to take it to Kai Kai so she can prepare us a delicious meal. Goku exclaimed excitedly. Gohan was also the same as him, as his appetite was voracious. But he decided that it was time to take a momentous step as a warrior. Wait, Dad. I'd like you to train me. Gohan uttered, leaving Goku totally surprised. He didn't expect his son to tell him such a thing. Chapter 3, Training 1. Wait, Dad. I'd like you to train me. Gohan uttered, leaving Goku totally surprised. He didn't expect his son to tell him such a thing. Because he really thought that Gohan would dedicate himself to being an investigator as Kai Kai wanted, the boy read a lot from what he saw. That's why he was puzzled. Perhaps, with his son's answer, he would better understand why Gohan would like to be trained by him. And that. I didn't know you had an interest in martial arts, Goku asked curiously, waiting for his son to give him an answer. Gohan smiled nervously when he heard him. He knew in advance that his father was going to react like that, but that was not a problem for the boy. Because I want to be as strong as your dad. And I want to protect the world from any threat, Gohan replied with a smile on his face. And he wasn't lying. His father Goku was always there to face any enemy. At some point he would have to be too. Especially for future battles. I'm afraid I'll be involved in all of them, Gohan thought, remembering the events of the manga. Goku listened carefully to his son. He looked at him for a few moments until he outlined a big smile, similar to that of little son Gohan. That's great, Gohan. But your mother? Well, I don't know if she'll be okay with you training, Goku considered as he scratched the back of his neck. He said it both because of his character and because of what Kai Kai mentioned years ago when he proposed to train Gohan. Yes, that's where his doubts arose. Don't worry about it, Dad. I'm pretty sure Mom will accept you training me, Gohan spoke with all the confidence in the world. Goku looked at him with his onyx eyes. His son was quite strange, and on more than one occasion, he had surprised him with his actions. So, perfect, I trust you, Gohan, Goku finally declared, and the younger jumped for joy. Now let's go home, I'm very hungry. Gohan nodded, but suddenly an idea came to his mind. It was something that he had always wanted to try since he was little, and now he had an opportunity. Dad, would you mind if we went back with the flying Nimbus? Gohan asked his father, who looked at him with puzzled eyes and smiled. Okay, here I come, flying Nimbus. The boy called the cloud that had accompanied him on countless adventures throughout his life. In a matter of seconds, the yellow cloud appeared, and Gohan looked at it with an amalgamation of feelings, from illusion to nostalgia. Flying Nimbus, this is my son Gohan, the oldest began with the introductions. Well, now it's your turn to go up, I hope you are pure like me. Gohan scoffed at his father's joke and walked over to the Nimbus. He took a deep breath and jumped up onto the flying cloud. And of course, he didn't fall. Did you see, Dad? I was able to get on. Gohan screeched with a jovial smile. I finally fulfilled one of my dreams, and it's also good to know that I'm pure. He really was never indecent or dishonest. Although his past life was not the best, he always tried to do things the best he could. When Mom died, I focused my best on studies, so much so that I never had a girlfriend, Gohan thought with a dejected smile. But here everything would be different. Not only would he seek to be the strongest, but he would also try to be happy. He was going to take advantage of this new opportunity. With a smile, Gohan closed his eyes and clung to his father as they traveled at full speed through the vast blue sky. We are already home. Kai Kai jumped to her feet at the sound of father and son's voices sounding in unison. She realized in turn that Goku was carrying a large fish in his hands. It's been a long time, the woman pointed out, and Goku scratched the back of his neck, smiling. Alright, it's time to cook that fish. I'll cook us something delicious. Goku jumped for joy after hearing those words, but he immediately remembered what he had talked to Gohan about training him. Hey, I think you should tell her now, Goku whispered, wishing his son luck as he was about to do something pretty hard. Convince Kai Kai, which he hadn't done since he'd known her. But maybe his son had better luck than him with that. Gohan gulped before stepping forward. He had full confidence that his mother would accept, but not even so, he was nervous. Mom, there's something I want to tell you, Gohan declared, and without waiting for Kai Kai to reply, he continued. I want Dad to train me. Kai dropped the knife she was removing the fish scales with and slowly turned around looking at Goku, then at Gohan. How do you want to train? What for? The important thing is that you study to be a useful person. Kai exclaimed looking at the boy. I know mom, but studies are useless when the planet is in danger, explained Gohan. Look, dad didn't study and he's a great person. But Kai searched for ways to refute her son's words, but she couldn't find any arguments to do so. Goku smiled at such words. I know you worry about what will happen in the future, and of course I will study, but my priority is to become more powerful, the little boy continued. The woman thought about the words he said as Gohan's eyes shone naively, expecting his mother to speak. She was extremely surprised by the great maturity of her son, who was barely 3 years old. That made her feel proud as her mother. She herself had witnessed how wonderful Gohan was. She had no doubt that he would be a great person. And with that, she already made her decision. Okay, I'll let you train with your father if you promise me you'll keep studying. Kai finally condescended, and the younger smiled. Consider that done. Thanks, Mom. Gohan hugged her mother, who smiled, stroking her coarse hair. Let me know when dinner is ready. I'll be in my room reading. Gohan went to her room under the cheerful gaze of her mother, who seconds later turned suspiciously towards her husband. By the way, Goku. The eldest was alarmed at Kai's soft tone. You have nothing to do with that decision our son has made? Of course not, it was Gohan himself who told me to train him, replied Goku, putting both hands behind his neck. He's quite strange. And that was his son, but they were not similar. Gohan was smarter, though he shared the same interest in being stronger than he did. He's very perceptive for his age, I guess that's good, Kai indicated with her hand on her cheek. Good. I have a big fish to cook. After that the woman went to resume her task and Goku was left blinking several times in perplexity until he remembered something curious. How come Gohan knew about the flying cloud if I never told him about it? Goku thought curiously. His son was very mysterious. At the other end of the house, Gohan let out a sneeze for no reason. He was meditating as usual while he continued to reason. Well, I changed the story a bit. And now I will be able to move with more freedom, studies will not be a problem, so everything is an advantage, he inquired. With Kai giving him complete freedom, he would be able to fully explore his potential, at least for the year that remained until Raditz's arrival. And then things would get complicated to a point where he wouldn't stop at home, so he would take advantage of all the time to train. Spending time with his parents was part of his plans. He knew well that the villains never rested, one after another they fell. And of course, he would keep the promise he made. If he wanted he could graduate from college right now, but there was no rush. He would do everything in his due time. But what was occupying his mind now was the fact that he had to gain 1,000 power immediately. Well, I have a year to do it. Dad should teach me the turtle style as soon as possible and also how to do a Kamehameha, he mused. He closed his eyes again to meditate and circulated the ki around his body, thus remaining quite concentrated. I'm ready, Dad. Gohan shouted with great enthusiasm while wearing a white tank top and his green pants. In front of him was Goku. The two were a few meters from the house. It was just dawning, so for now they decided to start training there. Goku smiled at the great emotion that his son was showing, and handed him a blue cloth that Gohan took in his arms and which he extended. Oh, that's your first dogi. Thanks a lot, Dad. Gohan exclaimed, hugging his father. What a dream. First the flying cloud and now this. It was nothing, haha, now try to put it on. While we train, try not to take it off, Goku said, crossing his arms. Gohan nodded, and after removing the clothes he was wearing, he put on his father's old dogi. But he felt quite heavy, it was a bit difficult for him to walk. I guess it's the heavy clothes, it suits me great because that way I'm getting stronger. It remains to be seen what training Dad will give me, the little boy thought. How are you? How are you feeling? Goku asked him with a smile, seeing that he had difficulty getting up. He expected that in advance. As if I weigh much more, I'll have a hard time keeping up with you by the time we train, Gohan stated as he scratched the back of his neck. Oh, the first thing before everything is that you must strengthen your physique. And for that, you will go around Mount Pause a couple of times, the man uttered. Gohan smiled, showing his nerves. He knew that it was very essential to become stronger and therefore increase his ki in a great way. Okay, don't regret it later, Dad. I'll finish that right away so you can show me the Kamehameha. Gohan cried out, smiling. Goku looked at him perplexed again, because at no time did he remember having told him about his most important technique. It was so strange. I'll have to take him to Kami-sama's palace, there he can be better trained, Goku reasoned, putting his hand to his chin, thinking. But for now, he will continue to train him. He wanted to see how far his child's potential would go. So, he smiled watching the little boy run. This is harder than I thought. Gohan felt his body weigh tons on him, but I can't just give up and go back. No. That never. That would be the first step in establishing his presence in this world, where power was everything. The Legend of Son Gohan began. Hey guys. This is What If Gohan Was a Reincarnation Isekai. It's important to note that I am not the author of this story, nor do I own any media. My personal stories have been ruthlessly attacked by YouTube due to the extreme violation of their terms of service. So I will be releasing the best of fanfiction I come across alongside my more socially appropriate works. Enjoy! I Am Gohan by Lord Phoenix. Chapter 1, What? Sigh. Tristan Black sighed, rubbing his temples for the 20th time. He was stuck on an important project that would change his entire working life. He had been focused on this work for weeks, and just when he reached the climax, he got stuck. He had no options to continue this. He sighed again very resignedly, while his fingers went over the keyboard of the computer that was located right in front of his eyes. He was thinking of a solution, which was rather ironic. His whole life was trouble. His parents abandoned him, and he grew up in an orphanage until a kind woman took him in at the age of 9. She gave him everything he never had: a house, clothes, food, education, and most of all, love. Yes, they were the happiest 6 years of his life. Until one day she died. He came from school, and when he got home, he saw how a couple of men took her mother's body to the funeral home. She died of a heart attack. That day Tristan swore 2 things. The first is that he